On the PS4 finally, some movement happening on the PS5 as well, with the new DLC fix release and some other case stuff. Related stuff that we're gonna cover here in this video. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and cover some of the PS4 developments. Lots of Blu-ray developments happening since my last update. So starting of course with the new lapse version 1.2. This version of the Blu-ray exploits. The latest version now includes the asynchronous I/O or I/O fix, which fixes the black screen and save data corruption issues without you having to add the I/O fix plugin in Gold 10. So you don't need that plugin anymore. You can disable that plugin if you were using it and just load this new version of the ISO on the disk. And then it will apply the fix automatically when it successfully jailbreaks the console. And then it will load your payload, like Gold 10 or any other payload that you have there. So since the fix is automatically applied, you'll be able to run your games without getting that black save data issue anymore. Every time you load the disk, the fixes will be automatically applied. Now for the people still running the older versions of the ISO, if you're not able to burn the latest version, you're stuck with the older version on the disk, then you can load this payload separately. It has been provided as a separate payload. If you go onto the repo down to step 7 here, you can see that the payload is provided separately. So you can just load the exploit from the disk using the older version and then send the payload separately using a payload injector like Netcat GUI or payload guest on the console itself. That homebrew application can be used to load the payload. But you do need to have the bin loader server enabled in the golden settings. And you also need to make sure that you're using golden version to point for B 18.5 or higher, because any older version did not support loading.elf payloads. It's only to point for B 18.5 and higher that support loading ELF payloads from the bin loader. Because previously the bin loader would only load .bin payloads, so it would not accept this payload on an older version of Gold 10. So make sure you're using the latest version. I've also done a video already that covers this, which I'll leave linked in the video description if you want more detail on how to set this up to get the fix applied. But best case scenario is just to burn the latest version to the disk so that the patch is applied automatically when you load it. Not only that, but the PS3 WebKit versions of the exploits have also been updated to include this fix. So it will fix the black screen and save corruption as soon as you load the jailbreak before it loads the payload. That is all included here as well. So this version from Al-Azif here supports firmware 7.0 to 9.60, loading the jailbreak from the web browser. And you can see that the I/O fix has been added for 7.5x firmwares. Previously it was added for 8.0 to 9.6, I believe, but now it supports a 7.5x up to 9.60. And hopefully 7.0 up to 9.60 in the future as well. And of course, Chameleon's version at kmaps4.github.io/ps3. That version has also been updated for 9.0. If you're using that version to load the jailbreak, it will also apply the fixes automatically so that you do not need the golden plugin applied with the I/O fix to fix the black screen and save data corruption. So that's what's been going on with the Blu-ray and the web browser exploit. Another issue that was also discovered is that some people were not getting the notifications when loading up the Blu-ray disc, and that is because there is a setting in your notification settings that can block notifications when playing videos. It's called disable pop UPS while playing video. So if you have that option enabled in your notification settings on the PS4, you will not get the pop UPS that say, Gold 10 has been loaded or jailbreak failed, reboot, or the I/O patch being applied. None of those notifications will show up when running the Blu-ray if you have that option enabled. So make sure that setting is unchecked in your notification settings so that you will get the notifications if you are running into that issue. I have also released my own ISO, an all-in-one ISO I/O for all-in-one. It includes everything you need on the one disk. So what I did is I updated the payload logic on the USB payload ELF files so that instead of just loading from the USB or hard drive, it can also load the payload, the Gold 10 payload, from the disk itself. If there's no payload found on the USB or hard drive, that way it keeps the same payload logic, making it easy to update the Gold 10 payload on the USB if you need to in the future to update it. But if there is no payload found on the USB or hard drive, it will just load the one off the disk instead and copy that one to the hard drive. So it will load that one from the hard drive again the next time you load it. So that has been added in my own custom version of the ISO. I've also included all of the main utility homebrew applications on the disk as well, so that when you go to the package installer with the disk inserted, all of the homebrew applications will appear that are on the disk, and you can install them directly from the disk itself. And then also it has the payloads, cheats, patches, and plugins on the disk as well. So once you install the homebrew application, you'll have PS4 Explorer that you can then use to copy the payloads and patches from the disk to the hard drive. And then you'll be able to, run the payloads and payload guest and install patches the cheats and plugins using PS4 Cheats which Manager, is also installed off the disk. And then you can update the cheats, patches and plugins from the hard drive, which are the ones that were copied off the disk. So you can basically set up the whole jailbreak from scratch using a single disk. That is the general idea. There was a little bit of confusion about this that the developer of the Blu-ray exploit said that they're seeing people say IO fix for laps as in all-in-one. That might be kind of confusing. My version of the ISO where I called it IO for all-in-one, because it's everything included on the one disk, hence the IO name, which maybe I should have used a different name. Because the IO patch that is used to fix the black screen and save data, corruption issues and the exploit itself, and is called IO because it's asynchronous IO. So, some people conflating my all-in-one version with the actual exploit, or the black screen and save data corruption fix, when they are unrelated, but anyway, that is the general idea there. So that's the updates we have for the Blu-ray exploit, and of course the web browser exploit on the PS4. So another update we've had is to the Lapse Core project, which uses the PS2 game OK Shadow King to jailbreak the PS4 up to firmware 11.0 originally, but now we've had an update that supports additional firmwares. 11.02 is now supported, 11.50, 11.52, 12.0 and 12.02 are all supported. So if you still have a retail copy of OK Shadow King, the PS2 game on your PS4, and you're on one of these compatible firmwares, you can now use it to jailbreak your PS4. And again, now working all the way up to firmware 12.0, whereas previously it only worked up to 11.0. And I do have a full tutorial showing you how to set up this jailbreak, which will be linked in the video description, but it is a very niche exploit, because you have to have one of these store-bought versions of Okami Shadow King still working on your console on one of these compatible firmwares in order to take advantage of it. Now also the PS5 is on the to-do list, and because all of the PS4 firmwares are now supported, perhaps D-Link Turtle will now shift focus to porting it to the PlayStation 5. So we could also use that game to jailbreak the PS-1 as well in the future. Okay, so now let's move on to some PS5 development. One of the other big improvements here is a DLC fix. So Echo Stretch posting just to clarify regarding the recent post. DLC has indeed been fixed thanks to Idle Sauce. And at the moment it only works on firmwares for 3 and 5.50, but it will need to be ported to other firmwares. Later today when I get off work I'll finish it up. So yeah, it has actually been released into Idle Sauce's host. So the UMTX to exploit host now includes this updated version of K stuff with the DLC fix. So the problem with DLC before is that PlayStation for fake package games, when you install them and you install any DLC content, they would not work. And what you'd have to do is actually extract all of the DLC content and the update file for the game, and merge the DLC content into the update using a patch from Idle Sauce to make it work. That is what had to be done. It was quite a long process that you had to do just to get DLC working. Your PS4 DLC working with your fake package PS4 games that you install on the PS5, but this has now been resolved. So it works now the same way it does on the PS4 with fake package games. So all I did was load up the web browser exploit at umtx2.pages .dev, and then from there just wait for it to cache the latest payloads, which will include the updated K-Stuff payload for the DLC fix. Once that's been applied, I can reload the web page and then simply run the jailbreak. Only takes about a second to load with UMTX2. And then we can select the option to run the PS5 K-Stuff payload, and that will load the updated version with the DLC fix. Now, an important note here is that if you've already tried to install the DLC on the old version of K-Stuff where it's not working, it will still not work. So you'll have to reinstall the DLC again with the fixed version of K-Stuff running, and then it should work. And obviously, you need to have the latest update installed for the game as well, or a high enough update that supports the DLC, in order for that DLC to show up in game. So you can see I have all of the map packs here as DLC packages for Black Ops 3, so I'm just gonna go ahead and install them all. We'll skip through the installation because it took a while to install all of these packages. But once it's installed, if we head back to the game here, you can press the options button and manage game contents. You can see it shows that there's 6 DLC items installed currently for the game. And then if we launch the game, and just skip ahead until we actually get into the game itself. If I head back to the zombie mode, and look at the map packs that we now have available, and you can see that we now have all 14 maps currently available. Whereas previously we only had one, and that was without having to merge the DLC with the update file in order to get those to work. So now DLC works just the same way as it does on the PS4. All you do is just install the game, update the DLC packages, run the game, and the DLC should appear in-game just as it does on the PS4. The way it should work. So that is a huge improvement to the PS5 jailbreak, making things a lot more convenient for installing your PS4 fake packages and getting your DLC working. So that is all resolved here in this version, which is a great update, although you have to bear in mind it only works currently on firmwares 4.03 and 5.50, so unfortunately we'll need to wait a little bit for it to get ported to the other firmwares, but fingers crossed it should be able to be ported to the other firmwares. And once that's done, we should have this fix applied for everybody, which would be fantastic. And we also have the 8.0 version of KStuff that is currently going through testing and has actually been able to get to the point of loading successfully and even being able to load some PS4 fake packages and game dumps using it as well. So it looks like it's getting there, although I believe there are still some issues that need to be resolved there before it will be released. But it looks like we're getting there with porting KStuff to additional firmwares like 8.x Echo. Stretch has been putting in the work there. And then last but not least, Lightning Mods has also announced that there will be a new version of ETA Hen. Version 2.3 with some additional features once the new version of KStuff comes out. So as stated by Lightning Mods himself here, he says, as soon as the new KStuff is fully tested, I'll be releasing a small ETA Hand update, along with some other features and fixes, so that you won't have to wait a while for a larger release. The FPS counter/game overlay, as well as some other features and 8.x Plus support are still being tested, so they will be saved for another release. The open source consideration will also be on hold for this release due to the circumstances, so once we get the new version of KStuff, even if it only supports one new firmware like 8.0 and has the DLC fix included as well, then at that point we'll probably see a new version of ETA Hen, which incorporates that version of KStuff, along with additional fixes of issues that we had with the previous version of ETA being resolved in version 2.3. And then once that comes out, Lightning Mods will continue to work on his main version, which includes some more significant improvements, like the FPS counter game overlays and various other features that will be coming in a version after that, which will also support 8.x Plus once we get more firmware supported with KStuff. So that's what's coming there from Lightning Mods as well. So some good updates there. For the PlayStation 5, we haven't really seen a lot of movement in terms of actual releases. On the PS5, in some time now we've got this DLC fix, which is a huge improvement, and it looks like 8.20 or at least 8.0 KStuff is a pretty close as well to being finished. So that is good to see, but anyway, that's probably gonna do it here for this video. So hope you guys enjoyed this one or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a